It's Talk Tonight, the podcast of delights, and don't you know it? Talk Tonight, it's Talk Tonight.
So, hello, welcome back to the Talk Tonight podcast. My hiatus didn't last very long, did it? I'm back, and today I've got a lovely chap on the podcast. We just had a good talk, and some of the stuff we're going to be talking about very interesting, especially for you unsigned artists, which I know is predominantly our viewer base. James Hargreaves, how are you, mate?
I am not bad. How are you?
I'm lovely. I'm not really sure where to begin because obviously we've already spoken about quite a bit. I know a lot of it is going to be incredibly interesting to the listeners with what you're trying to do. So I suppose we'll start with the parody, which got released yesterday, and we'll go from there. I blame the English.
Yeah, yeah. It was just I'm just goofing around, really. I think I made a few people annoyed with that one, but it's a joke. It's me just farting around. That video that I've just put out is not really representative of what I do on my channel. My channel basically was born out of. Really, it happened by accident. I did it as a guitar teaching channel. I am a guitar teacher. And I about 3 years ago now, I put out a video on how to play a Jimi Hendrix solo, and it got like 20,000 hits. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I better build on that. And so when the lockdown happened, I began building on it, and I released this video about a Noel Gallagher chord. It's called the Noel chord, the secret chord from Don't Look Back in Anger. And that was, I released a couple of other instructional videos, and I released that one, and it got 500,000 hits. It went viral, and it honestly, it's a crap video. It really is. I knocked it together in about 2 hours. Just, that'll do. I haven't done anything for a week or two, and I just stuck it on, and it went viral, like mini viral. For someone who at the time had like 200 subscribers, it went viral, and I was up to 3,000 subscribers within the space of 2 weeks. Most of whom were Oasis fans, so I carried on kind of doing some material for them, Oasis material, because I love Oasis, you know. And I did this one video after I've been thinking about it for a while, called Britpop versus Now. Why was music so much better in the 90s? Because I'm nearly 40, you know, I grew up in the 90s. I go through the Britpop heyday when guitar bands were everywhere. And that was the next video that really struck a chord. It seemed to get this massive response from my subscribers and viewers, just saying, well, yeah, we agree. The stuff in the industry right now is dreadful. You know, it's mostly written in a boardroom. It's mostly written with a team, with a target market target audience in mind. You know, it's not kind of homegrown, natural stuff. It's not stuff that's been written and performed by the same people. And that's kind of, that wound me up a bit. I look back at like the British rock and roll tradition, starting like Cliff Richard back in the 50s, and the Beatles, and all the way up till really the Arctic Monkeys, where it kind of stopped. And I just look at that and go, man, that is such a shame that seems to be dying out. And so I put that video out there almost as like raising a flag and saying, does anyone else feel this way? And I got swamped. I got like, I made a point of saying in there, you know, I'm thinking about maybe starting a record company to try and do something about this. Please don't send me any demos. I'm only thinking about it. Next day, you know, 300 emails with demos. But really, in a weird way, that just illustrated that there is massive. I mean, that was worldwide. That was Brazil, Italy, Australia. You know, there's massive worldwide passion for this, to see rock and roll music back in the charts, back in the mainstream. And so I feel like I've tapped into something there, and that's the latest video was just a joke for a laugh. But that's not really the theme of the channel. The theme of the channel is taking back the charts. It's getting rock and roll music back in the mainstream.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because, like you said, since Arctic Monkeys, it's almost been known as the landfill indie era, where a band will come, they'll hit a couple of singles out the park, and then they'll die off. I mean, I always use the examples of Kaiser Chiefs and Razorlight, who back in the early noughties were absolutely firing, and then nowadays you never really hear of them.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that is due to the fact that they don't get airplay, don't get radio play, or not in the mainstream, or whether it's just because indie music's not predominantly what people want. But like you said, with the amount of people sending you demos, I think it is what they want. And obviously, us at Talk Tonight, we get hundreds of songs sent to us, and from all different genres. But I think, you know, most of it is indie music. And yeah, I feel like where you're going with it sounds interesting. So tell us a little bit more about Take Back the Charts and just trying to create your own sort of top of the pops.
Yeah, well, so that video asked the question first, why are things so different? And so I began breaking down the differences on my channel between the industry in the 90s, which a lot of people are still in that mindset, and now, which is 30 years later, it's different. It's very, 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 very different. So in the 90s, you had bands funded by physical music sales, and now all music is free. So, you know, we had... I remember going into HMV and buying a CD for 18 quid. I remember that. I remember as a teenager, you know, going into HMV and I'd spend a fortune on stuff. I remember getting it home and my cat got hold of the damn thing and scratched it and be like, no! And I had to go and buy it again for another 18 quid. Yeah. And so you can just imagine millions of people nationwide doing that. That's how, when Noel Gallagher released Wonderwall, he became a millionaire 4 times in a day. There's 4 different times throughout the day he made £1 million, and it was physical sales. It was the CD, and now all music is free, all of it. Physical sales are a nice bonus for real die-hard fans, but all music is free. Live music, you can make some money. Merch, you can make some money, but all music is basically free. And unlike before, where there was kind of, it was quite precious when a new band, even an underground band, released something, you go and listen. Now there is so much music, there's a glut of it, that people just flipping switch off. You know, there's just new music being pushed everywhere all the time. So most people aren't even interested because they're overwhelmed. There's this massive difference. It's been a complete paradigm shift from the 90s to now. And as a result of all the money being, 90% of the money being gutted out of the industry, what the industry has done, it's retreated to the top. Yeah. So you've got the radio stations, they only play the big hits that they know people are going to like, or the new stuff that they've been paid by, you know, radio pushers or record companies to push. They only play stuff that's been carefully playlisted by, you know, again, a boardroom, and and they don't play new artists. DJs don't launch new artists now. That's something else we did on my channel. It's all retreated to the top. So only the mega record companies and mega artists really still manage to make money from their music, and there's this huge void in the middle. Now what that's meant is that indie rock and roll, which is working class music, really, that's what it is. British working class music tends to be indie music and rock and roll music. It's vanished because to do that you have to either have massive financial backing from a record company or you have to self-fund it.
Yeah.
And so that's why the sound of British working class music has gone. I mean, John Lennon was the Beatles; they were working class. Oasis, they were working class, you know, and as were Arctic Monkeys, you know. And now it's gone because to do that, the money has got to come from somewhere, and the record companies don't do what they used to do. So a record company would go out, a scout would go out, hear a band, and go, "Wow, they're amazing! Right, 5-album deal. That's what Oasis. 5 or 6 album deal. That's what Oasis got from a gig." That never happens now. Bands go out, play their original material live. They are, unless it's a 1 in a billion chance, like unless it's they win the lottery and get struck by lightning at the same time kind of chance, they are not going to get picked up by a record company PR guy. They're not. It all happens online now. Yeah. And so with that being the case, I've kind of looked at this problem and gone, there must be a way to do this. There must be a way for British rock and roll kind of working class music to get a foothold somewhere. Yeah. And so that's been the big drive of my channel. That's what I do other stuff. I do guitar-y stuff. I do documentaries on Oasis and Indie and stuff. But the heart and soul of it is, how can we get that working class music back in the charts. And I've started coming up with just the scaffolding of a plan.
Yeah. So, certainly hear what you're saying. It's quite fascinating, actually. That take, I've never really interpreted it like that before. I just feel like everything's gone digital these days. So obviously everyone's got their own way of making music, which is why there's been such an influx. I've never considered it. I took a term like you used, retreat to the top. How the labels have just gone, right, this artist has got big. We know if we push their music out, it will sell. And it got me thinking about an example. Something we've spoken about on the channel before. Ed Sheeran. So when Ed Sheeran burst onto the scene with his first album, he was incredible. Everyone loved it. But now you listen to his most recent song, Bad Habits, and it sounds like chart filler again. So obviously when he came out, it was original, it was authentic. And now it sounds like what you said, that meeting boardroom sound. And I've never really thought about it like the artists are retreating to the top, not the artist, sorry, the music industry in general is retreating to the top. I find that fascinating. So why do you think that indie artists aren't able to do that? Because obviously bands do go big. I've seen with like Arctic Monkeys, Foals, Cortinas, they're all relatively big. But then I suppose bands like Catfish and the Bottom, for example, they were big after the first album. Next two, they've sort of played it safe. Do you think that playing it safe is because they know what works and they're not willing to take a chance because they may just end up in that indie landfill?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think what's missing is edge. I mean, that's partly a bit behind why I put that last video out. I was in two minds about, shall I do this? Is kick it? This is a bit troublemaker. This is a bit kind of. And one of my students said, "Noel Gallagher would do it. Put it out." I was like, "You're all right. I'm being a coward here, aren't I? Let's just go on. Let's just live on the edge a bit. Let's provoke a bit." But that's the thing. That's the difficult thing in this day and age. Being offensive is the cardinal sin. Being offensive means you will get, if you are in a position where other people have the power over your music career, if you try and be what used to be rock and roll, if you try and speak your mind and live on the edge and not care, you'll be cancelled like that. So that's kind of, again, another thing that's an element of what I've tried to do myself. So on my channel, I started this thing called Take Back the Charts. And the idea behind it is homegrown musicians writing and recording their own stuff as cheaply as possible. So I recorded a 4-song EP. I recorded it at home on this computer I'm talking to you on right now. Obviously, I'm a guitar teacher. I've got some nice gear that I've accumulated slowly and patiently over several decades. Hard work, saving, So, and I've also got experience as a session player. So I do have a little bit of an advantage there, but I recorded it all for free at home for nothing on my computer. I then got it mastered at Abbey Road. That wasn't free, but my viewers on my channel crowdfunded it. People were saying, how can we help? How can we contribute? And I said, well, okay, I set up, at their request, I set up a GoFundMe, and that they completely paid to have it mastered at Abbey Road. So we got it mastered at Abbey Road. I released it on CD, and it hit the charts. And the point of that, it got to number 7 in the physical singles charts on June 4th. It was released 28th of May 2021, and the following week, number 7 physical singles charts. And that was amazing. That was a tick on the bucket list, But the big thing there is we need kind of like guerrilla record labels. There's all the power is at the top. There's a huge void in the middle, and then down here at the bottom there's millions and millions of people releasing stuff to Spotify and SoundCloud and Bandcamp and getting nowhere. What we need is some of these people at the bottom to move up into the middle. And that means, and so that's part of what I'm trying to help with on my channel. I'm trying to do, right now I'm working on putting together a list of radio stations and podcasts. You are one of them, of great people to contact for a chance to just connect with people. Because these days, recording the music, putting it online, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best is a one-way ticket to disappointment and failure. You have to think in terms of build a buzz, release, promote. So you have to be the record company. The recording and releasing of the song is the fun bit right in the middle. Building the buzz is work. It's the donkey work. Promoting it afterwards is work. It's the donkey work. And no one's going to do that for you. So if you're not willing to try and be active on some platform, I chose YouTube because I frigging hate social media, but I chose YouTube. So I'm really active on YouTube, and people can connect with me there. And they don't buy my music because they like my music. They buy my music because they've connected with me, and they're curious. And just, oh, let's just see.
Unsigned artists, like you were saying, when they're doing the donkey work at the bottom, is that I had a bit of a rant the other day, is that I hate entitled bands. So obviously what we do it for free. Much like yourself, I presume the people that you're going to be promoting, it won't be for much cost, if any. And when, as a small platform like us, what I like to think is we scratch your back, you scratch ours, that sort of thing. So when we ask, can you please share the reviews, can you share the podcast? Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you did. But I think from the band's point of view, that's promotion for them.
Absolutely.
I don't understand why they wouldn't want to promote it. So I suppose that's my piece of advice, is always promote anything you do. What advice could you give to these artists that are trying to promote themselves? Because like you said, it's difficult out there.
Well, what you said there about attitude is mega. So again, it's a difference between the 90s and the old way versus now. Like, people still like to walk around and talk to you like they're Liam Gallagher. I don't need that. F this, F that. And you think, well, Liam probably doesn't talk to his producers and his manager and his record company that way. It's all just a bit of an act for fun. It's a bit of theatre. And I've had people contact me, and I had someone send me a demo actually on Facebook. I listened to it and I loved it. I was like, that is so good. And I contacted the guy back and I said, I really enjoyed that. I'd like to put that on my public playlist. Do you have this version that you sent me on Spotify? And he just went, what version? The version you sent me. What playlist? I was like, okay, you haven't said thank you.
Yeah.
You haven't shown any appreciation. You sent me a demo, I listened to it, I took the time, and you're just kind of being off. And I thought, forget it. I never replied again. I just left it after that. And there was no gratitude there. I said, right, I've gone out my way, I've listened to your music, I liked it, I've given you a load of feedback here, I've said it's really good, I really enjoyed this and that about it, I'd like to promote it for you. No, not a word of thanks, nothing, just what playlist?
Yeah.
Okay, screw you, and that was it. These days, because as an artist you are the record company, really, unless you are lucky and you're Olivia Rodrigo and you get signed, you are the record company. So you can't be all swagger anymore. You have to build the bridges with people. You have to be friendly and helpful and work together. Promote other people for no reason. If you see someone doing something great, just for absolutely no reason, promote them and don't ask for anything back.
Yeah.
You are the record company. You are the PR guy. So that whole, I hate the word networking, but I prefer to just say, try and be mates with people. Try and just no strings, no. It's funny because doing this, it brings out what people really like. It brings character to the surface. So if someone deep down is a selfish dick, people can tell, and they go, I don't like you, I don't really want to help you. And if someone's actually quite nice, really, under it all, if someone's fairly, reasonable, kind person, people can usually tell. And they go, he's all right, go on then. And I think what you said there about attitude is fundamental. It's changed, and unless something massive, unless streaming and file sharing collapses, unless someone blows up the internet tomorrow, it's not going back. Music's staying free. So this is going to be something that as musicians we're all going to have to adjust to.
You've got to be in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're making music with the pure intention of being this massive artist that's selling out Wembley. You're not doing it for the right reasons. That's the dream. You should be making music because you like making music, because you believe in the music you make.
Absolutely.
That's what David Bowie used to say, that he never made music because he wanted millions of people to listen. That was just because everyone saw how authentic he was. But that's not why he did it. He did it because he loved it. Same with Freddie Mercury. Obviously, he never had intentions of being that massive star playing Live Aid. He probably knew he would because he was bloody talented, but they went in just because they loved doing it. Yeah. And what you were just saying about, you know, building bridges and being mates with people. I actually work in sales. Now, in sales, a huge part of it is connections. Building up those connections. You're not going to be able to make a sale if they don't know who you are and all you say is, this is my product, do you want it? And it's exactly the same with music. Now, if you message us, you don't follow us, you're in the message request and you go, this is my song, will you have a listen? No. First of all, you've not followed us, you've not interacted with anything we've done, so why should we listen to your music? So maybe that soft approach of coming out, hi, we're releasing a single, love it, love your work, love it if you give us some feedback. Not even asking us to share it, promote it, just for some feedback, I think is the best way to initially approach a podcast, a blog. I don't know your thoughts on that, James, but for me, I feel like the soft approach gets bands further. I feel like if someone sends us a massive copy and pasted message, we won't usually listen.
I think you're right, and I think as well, we were talking about this a bit off the camera before, but I think podcasts are becoming what radio used to be. So I think a big, I was talking before about music's retreat to the top. There's a huge load of people at the bottom just putting stuff on SoundCloud and hoping for the best. And there's this gap in the middle. That gap in the middle is podcasts and community radio. One of the things I'm in the process of doing right now on my channel is creating this master list of podcasts and radio stations, most of which are small community radio stations nationwide, and there's some in Europe, and I'm hoping to do some in the States as well, who are open to, receiving demos of unsigned artists, listening and maybe playing them. Now, if you got playlisted by Radio X or Absolute or, I don't know, Radio 1 play generally just utter garbage these days, so I don't think Radio 1 are an option, but if you got playlisted by a radio station that still plays some rock and roll music, you would probably have you had a listenership of 10,000. If you can get enough little community radio stations with a listenership of 100, you've got the same amount, and you don't have to battle, you don't have to try and wheedle and bargain and bribe the boardroom. There's a big enough network of podcasts and community radio stations. And something else that I said to you off the air is I'm not actually that bothered about being a rock star myself. What you said before about that, the motive, is massive as well. So people who come into this with a desperation, when you come into it, you don't hold it too tightly, you're not too desperate. It's more fun. You come across as less of a super intense kind of self-obsessed me kind of musician, and I think it's just healthier mentally all around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the music industry can be toxic at the best of times, obviously, with people just wanting to break out and become massive. You have got to do the legwork. I mean, my little brother, he's got a good voice, plays guitar, got him a few shows, but he's not willing to do a networking on social media. And I go, Joe, the modern day is all social media. You're not going to get anywhere without it.
And you only have to pick one. You can pick TikTok, you can pick Twitter, you can pick YouTube. You only have to pick one to regularly work on. That's it. But you do need one. Yeah,
exactly. So, James, could you... we're going to wrap it up shortly of having some internet problems. It's such a shame because you're such a fascinating person to listen to. Just so before we wrap up, I would like to know a little bit about the record label, what acts you're looking into, whether you've already got any.
Well, okay, so right now, because I'm just trying to learn the ropes, the big plan is not for me to be a rock star, it's to start a record label. I already actually own a record label. Hargreaves Records exists. And what I want to do further down the road is I want to set up an online, you mentioned it earlier, like an online Top of the Pops kind of thing, where new acts that I listen to have a place to sort of play and perform and be seen. I'd like broadcast it probably initially monthly. It would be a proper come to the studio, be filmed and brought, not a Zoom thing, proper real thing. And that's down the road. That is years down the road. There's no way I could afford to do that yet. But the Top of the Pops thing, that is. But the plan currently is I'm learning the ropes of the industry. I've released an EP, that's gone well. I'm going to release 2 more and I'm going to release an album. After that, I'm going to try and, if I can get the album to hit 40 in the album charts, I'm going to put an actual band together and go to Rockfield Studios, where Oasis recorded Morning Glory, where Queen recorded Bohemian Rhapsody, and we're going to make an album there. And that will hopefully give me the experience of working with, sorting out the contracts for other musicians. Once I've done that, as long as that all goes well, and if I can afford it, at that point I will look at signing other acts. But because there's nothing there right now, like that middle gap, there's nothing there. I'm trying to figure out how to build the scaffolding to put something there so that bands that I reckon are good enough and have good enough music that's based on real instruments, not all electric synths, but real, guitars, drums, bass, piano, the music that tends to last. Yeah. Then I will give them that promotion. But right now, I think that the point of coming to signing other artists, the point of coming to launching like an online Top of the Pops kind of thing, that is years down the road, but that's the dream. Right now, I'm just dreaming big, but I don't see why it shouldn't happen.
And that's that. James, I mean, that was fascinating. I'd love to get you on every step of the way through this, because, I mean, what you were trying to do, I mean, it sounds like something similar to my dream of setting up a record label and having my own bands, my own acts, which I can promote. I mean, I want to go a bit of a different route, where my dream is to own a venue where to put on bands. There's no reason why my venue couldn't house your acts in the future. No, I find it fascinating. Obviously, the way you speak about music, you're obviously very passionate about it, and you believe that middle gap, it can be filled.
Absolutely.
And the way you're speaking, you could be the one to do it. Now, I really enjoyed it, James. I really did. I found what you say. Honestly, I've never thought about a lot of the theory. The theory behind music like that before. Yeah. Like how it used to be back in the 90s and stuff. It was really interesting. And I feel like the people listening to this have got a lot to think about as well, whether that be how they're promoting themselves, where they want to be. Really enjoyed it, James.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
I think before we go, obviously you're a big Oasis fan. We're Talk Tonight. There's only one question which I have to ask. What's your favourite Oasis song?
This is probably obvious to anyone on my channel. It's Don't Look Back in Anger. That's really, it's because that single with the B-sides, and when it came out and the time in the 90s that signified, and that, like, I've told this story before, but the moment I walked into my mate's kitchen and his brother was just stood there with the CD player on the side, like just shell-shocked, he just turned to me and went, "Have you heard Don't Look Back in Anger?" I was like, "No." And he put it on. I remember listening to it and going, "God, Liam's voice has improved." And it's that for me. The song's great, but also that moment in time when it came out and where the country was when that happened.
Yeah, fantastic. Obviously, there has been shouts for that to be the national anthem. I don't think you're in a boat alone with saying that's the best Oasis song. For me, it's definitely up there.
What was your number one?
Whatever.
Ah, it's a good one. Good free speech song, that.
For me, that's it's beautiful the way they brought in the orchestral pieces. It just doesn't sound like a traditional Oasis song.
No.
To me, it's obviously Liam's voice on it is absolutely phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
So, James, been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Like I said, when the EPs come out, when the album comes out, we'll get you back on.
Fantastic, yeah.
And cheers for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's